This video is not meant to disparage or disrespect President Uhuru Kenyatta. He is about the same age as my father, and it goes without saying that I have a lot of respect for him. Hi everyone. Uhuru Kenyatta, the outgoing president of the People's Republic of Kenya, has what I would call a mixed bag of fortunes in terms of his legacy. There is no general agreement about his achievements or his failures. Whereas we can make an argument about his achievements, his successes, his failures from here to Timbuktu, there is one area that leaves no room for argument: his failure as a parent. By his own admission, Uhuru Kenyatta grew up in Gatundu while his father served as the presidente of this country. I see this as a calculated and deliberate step of bringing up the young Kenyatta in the right way. This is because the 65-year-old Mzee Jomo Kenyatta understood, or rather had the foresight, that one day his beloved son would be, or would want to be, the president of this country. And for that to happen, he had to know the language of his people, the Kikuyu language. And again, for that to happen, he had to be brought up in a rural environment. Jomo Kenyatta could have easily brought up Uhuru Kenyatta in State House, Nairobi, where Uhuru could most likely not have grasped his mother tongue. But the old Jomo was wiser. Now, this is where the young Kenyatta has completely failed. It was so painful watching his son read Kiswahili from a mobile phone and still struggle at it.
Nimefurahi sana kufika Nandi County. Ni mara yangu ya pili kufika Nandi. Asanteni sana kwa kuwa marafiki zetu. Wakenya, tufanye kazi pamoja. Naomba vijana tupige kura kwa amani. Asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki.
If you look at William Ruto's body language, it tells you something. That William Ruto is aware that he's looking at parental failure right there in front of him. This is the face of parental failure. Those of us from Mount Kenya will tell you that the reason why Uhuru Kenyatta had a near cult following in 2013 and in 2017 elections is because of his ability to speak our language. I mean, so many of us were amazed at his ability to speak the language, at his grasp of the language. Uhuru Kenyatta is so good in the language that, unlike most of us, he does not even mix the Kiswahili and English while speaking the Kikuyu language. He speaks it so fluently, and this is one of the reasons why people are able to connect with him.
Ndeumereirie kwirago wakaheti wakaire
ti wakaire tu
neguo na totirago.
He could go to those campaign rallies, to the local radio stations, and speak the language of the people. And this one caught the emotions of the people. I mean, people could see that this is a person from the royal family, but he's speaking our language. And because of that, he was embraced as one of us. What I've come to realize through my experience as a teacher and through being a member of this country is that most Kenyans, about 70% of Kenyans, do not understand English. Forget about English being the official language of this country. A good number of Kenyans do not understand English.
Selma will be right back after the break.
Be back up from the back.
Mimi naitwa Chris and I will be needed back in
And therefore, if you come to them, you have to speak their language. You have to speak to them a language that they can understand. And it is for this very same reason why Raila Amolo Odinga has a near cultic following in his Luo Nyanza backyard. Because he can speak the language of the people. And it is for this again very same reason why Gideon Moi is struggling with the Rift Valley backyard, because he cannot speak the language of his people, leave alone Kiswahili. Up to this very moment, the Speaker of the Senate does not know which county Gideon Moi represents, because he talks about Baringe County. And you know, the Speaker of the Senate is looking at his list and wondering, where is Baringe County?
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
It goes without saying that if the young Kenyatta does not know Kiswahili, then automatically he neither knows the language of his ancestors. And that failure alone has significantly lowered the chances of the three Kenyattas from ever ruling this country. It is so unfair for a parent to deny their children the ability to grow to their full potential, or rather, make what would have otherwise been so easy to achieve an uphill task. Being from a royal family or a very wealthy family can give you a 20, 30, 40% head start, but do not underestimate the importance of knowing the language of your people. And Nelson Mandela puts it so well that if you talk to a man in a language that he understands, that goes to his head. But if you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. I would equate this failure of failing to pass on a language to your children at a higher level than the inability to provide food or clothes or education to a child. Because whereas the issue of food is caused by inability, the issue of failure to pass on a language is caused by irresponsibility and negligence of duty as a parent. Unfortunately, Uhuru Kenyatta is not alone in this irresponsibility, or rather parental failure. There are millions of other Kenyans, some very close friends of mine, and even my relatives have not been left behind. It is so unfortunate to see two parents from the same community who can fluently communicate in their indigenous language. A Luo married to a Luo, a Kalenjin married to a Kalenjin, but yet their children cannot utter a single word in their local language, not even greetings. But I forgive them, because other than parental irresponsibility, there is also lack of information, the allure for modernity, but most importantly, ignorance concerning language acquisition that has really taken over among Kenyans, among other people around the world. This ignorance almost took over me, and I remember one of my close relatives calling me to advise me not to talk to my then 2-year-old son in many languages, since I may end up confusing him. But then again, I have adapted the philosophy from the great philosophers of the past to question everything. And I questioned the assertion that exposing a child to many different languages can confuse a child, and I found out that it was completely false. I started by looking at my own life, among others around me. How comes I can speak Kikuyu, Kiswahili, English so fluently, and yet somebody wants to tell me that my son can't do the same? Is it that our generation was better than our children? Of course not. This is one of the biggest mistakes that we tend to make as modern day parents. Joking with the capacity, or rather the potential of the human brain. This goes hand in hand with limiting the human brain. That, don't learn many other languages. Just speak English only. We are limiting our children, and this is so unfortunate. We are putting on barriers to our children's brains. This thing in between our ears is extremely resilient. Release it like a lion. The most common estimates put the capacity of the human brain at 2.5 million gigabytes. 2.5 million GBs. Now, the Oxford Dictionary of English, in comparison, occupies 14 MBs only. This is a dictionary that boasts of having 350,000 words. Most of the local African languages have less than 20,000 words. This is because most of our local languages do not have the scientific terms that are used in English. For instance, in most African languages, we just have blood, thakame. We don't have plasma, platelets, white blood cells, red blood cells. Talking of cells, we don't have centrioles, Golgi apparatus, cell membrane, nucleolus, nucleoplasm, rough endoplasmic reticulum, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, cytoplasm, ribosomes, mitochondria, among others. Another reason for this, like my good friend Kamau Njuguna told me, is that most of our local African languages are agglutinative. In other words, one indigenous African word can summarize up to 7 or 10 English words. This means that the maximum memory that our local languages can occupy in our brains is only about 800 kilobytes per language. 800 KBs. And someone wants to tell me that that can confuse a child. Forgive my simple math assumption among many other aspects of a language, but I'm pretty sure that no language can occupy more than 1 GB of the brain's capacity. Ignore all the arguments that can be mounted to defend this kind of irresponsibility. The most common one, of course, is that the children were educated in international schools or they grew up abroad. Ignore all those. We cannot fail in our parental responsibilities and then defend that irresponsibility. I even see some Kenyans who are very proud that their children are speaking the Queen's English only. You know, the English of the nose. Such children, just like Uhuru Kenyatta, cannot utter a single Kiswahili word, leave alone their local indigenous language. What is there to be proud about the killing, destruction, eradication, and annihilation of a language? I mean, you are actively participating in the killing of a language, and you're not only proud of it, but you want us to give you a medal for the same. Give me a break about it. And by the way, we don't have to teach children any language. According to psychologist Chris Hart of the Daily Nation, while writing about common sense isn't always that sensible, he notes that lots of other common sense ideas also turn out to be wrong. Like the belief that we have to teach children to talk. Actually, we don't. They are programmed to teach themselves. All they need is ample exposure to language. Any language, I must add. This means that we simply need to speak to the children in any language, and they will automatically start speaking it. But this subject is bigger than this video, and I'll be doing a few more videos on this subject. But in conclusion, allow me to say this, that this video is not meant to disparage or disrespect President Uhuru Kenyatta. He is about the same age as my father, and it goes without saying that I have a lot of respect for him. The problem that I'm trying to address here is that of reminding parents to take their parental responsibilities more seriously. Fight ignorance concerning language acquisition. Individuals to stop joking with the capacity of the human brain, or rather stop limiting the brains of our children. But most importantly, prevent the death of indigenous languages, because believe me not, in the next 70 years or so, all our local languages will be dead and buried if this trend goes on. It doesn't matter that, for instance, we have about 8 million Kikuyus in this country. We just need 2 more generations, and that language will be annihilated, dead, buried, destroyed, never to rise again. If Latin died, any other language can die. Thank you so much. I'm out.